Now, if you and I, Acolyte, put 25 grand into the same mortgage pool, our checks would look exactly alike. If we both put $25,000 into the mortgage pool, our checks would look exactly like boring, no priority provisions. So, Acolyte, if I work in structured finance, what I'm going to do is go to Ginnie Mae and say, listen, I don't want to buy proportionate ownership in the pool of mortgages. No. I want to buy the entire pool. Every mortgage in the pool, I want to buy it all. And Ginnie Mae says, wow. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve it up. Structured finance men and women have discovered, Acolyte, that you make more selling things by the slice. And you get paid more if you give it a fancy French name. We're not going to get much for snails with butter, but escargot and bird, now we're talking. The French word for slice is tranche. So now I'm going to carve this up into various cascading cash flows. This is a little more interesting now because now there are priority provisions. Now we can allocate, interest rate risk. You don't have credit risk in a CMO because what we're carving up, Acolyte, is a pool of Ginnie Mae mortgages. And we can say, would you like the early cash flows, the later cash flows? Kind of fun, right? I saw a guy in structured finance who said, I just carved this mortgage pool into 186 tranches, and everybody thinks they got the best tranche. Now, who would you think gets the least attractive tranche? Institutional investors or Joe Sixpacks, retail investors? Retail, right? So we need to make sure that you understand when you're buying a CMO that you're not buying proportionate ownership in a pool of mortgages. No. You're buying a cash flow from a mortgage pool. And now the interest rate risk can be carved up. The people who have the early cash flows have what are called plan amortization classes. And the PACs, plan amortization classes, those tranches, those cash flows, have more predictability and less risk. It's easier to predict what somebody's going to do with their mortgage sooner rather than later, right? And then the later cash flows are targeted amortization classes. So do we have more or less interest rate risk in a CMO? Trick question. It depends. Some people have more, some people have less. That was the whole point of carving it up, because before we carved it up into tranches, CMOs, everybody had the same. Fannie Mae's have an implied backing of U.S. Treasury, not a direct backing. I think I just gave you every Series 7 question about CMOs.